My name is Marshall. I am the facilitator of the ExperienceMore tour. This is a network where we talk about all sorts of fun topics, usually gear, and how it pertains to folks who work in the retail environment. Today, we're going to be a little less focused on gear and a little more focused on sort of that end use of where the gear gets used. And to do that, we are really excited to be able to bring in this amazing athlete, Cassy, who not only is an ultra runner, which I learned recently, but also is a field experience rep manager at HOKA. We've been working with Cassy for years and years now on this network through the lens of some, as that field experience representative. But today we're going to take that hat off and we're going to put on the things she does on her spare time. And I don't know how she has the spare time to do this, but we're going to find out, which is ultra running. So welcome, Cassy. We're excited to have you join us on the network today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And Cassy, just before we kind of dive into this, can you introduce just sort of what you do at Hoka a little bit, and then we'll get into your kind of ultra running career as well, but just to give a little perspective.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, hi everyone. I'm Cassy Campanella. My pronouns are she, her, and I am lucky enough and fortunate enough to be a field experience manager on the Hoka team. So, what that means is I basically work on the marketing side with an incredible group of reps. So, everything you see in the field from Hoka activations and events locally, all the way to the little things that you see on social media. And yeah, so I basically just, I'm at events, I'm behind a computer, but most over, I get to work with incredible people.
Yeah, and that's a very full-time job that you have, and you're well accomplished in it. I know because we work with a lot of people that work in your orbit, and they have only good things to say about how you work and who you are. So that is a fact that you work a lot. And then today we're also going to explore that other side of you, which is ultra running, which is I thought you kind of did a couple, but you do a lot, and it's going to be really fun to explore that. Before we dive into you specifically as an ultra runner, can you help us understand sort of how you think of this field of ultra running? First of all, let's just talk with that technical definition. What is ultra running?
Yeah, no, great question. So ultra running is technically defined by anything over a marathon, which is 26.2 miles. Ultra marathons can range from most typical distances are 50K, 100K, 100 mile, 200 mile, 250 mile, and then it just continues to go up from there. There are people that do even more wild mileage, but basically anything over a marathon is considered an ultra marathon. And then to kind of give you the framework for how some of these are built, some are built on an hourly platform. So it's like most commonly 6, 8, 12, 24 hour. And it's usually set in more of a loop, different distances of loop. I call them the loopers. I like bow down to them. I think the mental fortitude that they have is much stronger than anything I'll ever have.
Uh,
But the loopers are typically, it could be 1 mile, it could be 5, it could be 20. Any of those loops are so impressive to me because I cannot handle loops. And then other ultras, I mean, everything from like Keys, obviously Keys 100, it's on the road, like all exposed road. And then obviously all the way to like high alpine races, like in the mountains. So the definition of ultra is it's expansive. It's there's a ton of variety in the sport, but I think that's one of the most beautiful parts about it is because every ultra runner you talk to has a different specialty, different preference, and just like whatever their special sauce is. So big world.
it is a big world, and there's all these variables to it, right? And there's the race side of it, and there's also maybe just the personal side of it. You go out and do long runs, right? So it's all kind of varied. And I want to get into the headspace a little bit of this, but let's actually before we do, because I will dive into your headspace. But I'm curious how you yourself got into ultra. What motivated you to sort of enjoy this sport?
Yeah, I actually love to kick it back all the way to my main high school sports. So, ironically enough, I was mainly in cheerleading and swimming, which obviously not have, they don't have much to do with running.
Ultra cheerleader, you
Um,
can do 24
yeah,
hours of
you can be an
cheerleading.
ultra cheerleader. Gymnastics is hard. Yeah, so it kind of started back then with swimming. My high school swim coach at the time, he just had a lot of passion for obviously triathlon, which I grew to know. His son was a Navy SEAL, so we did a lot of like really gnarly endurance training. Even back like then, I was pretty young to be going through like deep diving for pool bricks, holding my breath for long periods of time. But they introduced me to triathlon. And so I started to get into triathlon. I did various distances for years. I loved it. I was semi competitive. But ultimately, I didn't necessarily fit in to that culture. But what I did get from that is I transitioned into Xterra triathlons. So it was a lot of trail. And so I was training on trail. And then just a byproduct of training on trail, I met a bunch of incredible people at different runs and things like that. And I ended up meeting my partner, who back then was running ultras. And so I was incredibly fascinated by this, and being a little bit ignorant, a little bit naive back then. I thought this would be no problem for me to try. So he actually invited me to pace him at a 50 miler in Tennessee. And again, I had endurance. I had the competitive mindset and mentality. So I was like, oh, this is going to be cake. I'm not even doing the whole thing.
What does it
And
mean
I,
to pace somebody, just so for those who don't quite understand
oh yeah,
that?
sorry. So in a race, in ultras, you can have a safety runner or a pacer sometimes, and typically it's later in distance to make sure that if you're, basically to stay on top of your fueling and to just
Mhm.
keep you alive.
Okay,
um,
so you're not
yeah,
running the whole
so
race, you're just doing a portion of it with the person.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So just I was only doing like the back 20-ish miles of the race. And that day, even being fit and an endurance athlete already, I remember saying out loud, this is so dumb. Why does anyone do this? This is so incredibly difficult. I was like, this is so dumb. And yeah, I think it was less than 24 hours I had signed up for my first ultra. So
I mean, that's that really definition of what I call type 2 fun, right? Where in the moment you're really not enjoying it, but like as soon as you're done, or maybe a little bit after you're done, you're just like, okay, that was special, right? And you want to
yeah.
get back to it. Um, and so you've signed up for one, and you know it's been a lot since then. So take us through sort of a brief history of your resume or your tenure as an ultra runner.
Yeah, well, I feel like you hyped me up a lot in the beginning because there are ultra runners that have a way deeper and more impressive resume than me.
Hmm.
But I will say, I started out just doing 50Ks. Again, I started with a looped ultra for my first 50K.
Hmm.
Barely survived it. My nickname for that was Pigpen. If you're not familiar with Pigpen from
Peanuts.
Charlie Brown,
Yeah.
because I scooted my little feet to the finish, fought for my dear life. But I basically started with 50K, and then there was this race in Georgia that it was almost like a rite of passage for people. It was called the Georgia Death Race. And all of the local ultra runners at the time that I really, really admired and looked up to, including my partner, had done it. And everybody thought I was silly for doing this, but I went 50K to Georgia Death Race, which my year at the time it was over 75 miles and it's about 30,000 feet of elevation change.
Wow.
So going from 30 miles to 75 is very humbling. I highly don't recommend that. But that was the evolution. And then after Death Race, it was I had the best time. Like it was so hard and incredibly difficult, but um I couldn't stop then. I mean, it was I signed up for my first 100 miler shortly thereafter. I ran my first 100. And then it was just about staying consistent. I did as many races as I possibly could. I was doing a 50K per month in the beginning, which is very silly. Looking back,
That's a
don't
lot.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe don't. I mean, thankful that I had the ability back
Ah,
then.
youth, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the youth, the ignorance. I mean, I was like racking up 50s and
That's
100Ks and
awesome.
it felt good. It felt really good. And
Yeah,
I
you can do
learned a
it.
lot. But yeah, now I've only done 700s, and then I don't know, half a dozen 100Ks, and then I can't not name how many 50Ks, but
That's incredible.
yeah. So I've been doing it since like 2014.
Yeah, so you're at over 10 years of doing this, and in this 10 years, you've actually really kind of become a little quite competitive. I mean, I was looking through your resume, and you were in the Western States. That is not an easy race to get into. Tell us a little story about that.
Yeah, well, I got to talk about the privilege that comes behind it. So, if you're not familiar with Western states, it's actually a lottery style entry and it's really hard to get into. So, I'm very grateful. I was very fortunate to get in for 2022. And Western states was probably one of the scariest races for me for a lot of reasons. It was my Super Bowl. Like when I first started ultra running, I'm sure, like many people, watched a lot of YouTube videos on ultra running, and that was kind of like our North Star, our Super Bowl, if you will. And so Western States had always held a really special place for me, and I was honestly terrified and so nervous to actually be running it. So I took it incredible, like so seriously. I trained my butt off. I treated it with the utmost respect. I was super dialed for the leading up to that. But on race day, I went into the mindset with all of my goals. I had like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like I had everything. But ultimately, it was, just get yourself to the finish, stay healthy, and stay happy. And I remember throughout that morning, I remember ticking off some of the goals, and some of my time goals weren't going to happen. It just, that wasn't what the day gave me. And kind of what I learned along the way that day is by the time my C time goal was just blowing through it, I just decided, I was like, you know what? Not many people get to be here and experience this. I'm going to savor it. I'm going to savor every aid station. I'm going to savor every
Mhm.
person I meet, every conversation I have. And I did. And let me tell you, I'm super grateful. I had the closest friends crewing me. And we just had a ball. Like it was an incredible day. There was no part of the day that I wanted to quit. There was no
Wow.
part of the day that I was like, this is dumb. The entire day I was just like, I'm at Western States and I'm on the
Right.
Western States Trail
This
and
is where
I'm
I want to
about to get
be.
the buckle. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an incredible day. Super grateful for it and very humbled by it.
Yeah, and you've introduced this framework to us, and when we were talking about this ahead of time, of this sort of the three G's that helps you with your motivation, that keeps you moving along. Can you expand upon those, right? The gratitude, grit, and goal setting. You've already talked about how you had the goals, right? And then you just decided to enjoy the day, so you had gratitude for the day. But there is this other component, grit, that is in there as well. Kind of expand upon this framework that you've developed for yourself.
Yeah. So I always like to start off by saying I understand that I am very fortunate to have the ability that I do, not only physically, just in my body, but to be surrounded by people that support me, to have a career where I can, tangentially explore an adventure. But most over, just like to have the mindset and ability all the time to be healthy and to have that ability to go out and do these things. So I always try to remember, even in the training, when I don't want to get out there or when I'm having a hard time, just being super grateful that not only can I physically do it, but the stars have aligned so I can take what I'm passionate about, and do it every day in my career. So that's I just full 360 gratitude. I mean, again, I work with incredible people. I have incredible friends, and I feel very supported in that way, both physically and mentally. Um, I will say my second G for goal setting is unbelievable because I have silly goals for everything, personally, professionally. I even have goals for my dog Bean. Goals all around. I think goals are super important. Setting, I call them the realistic goals, and then the dreams that you don't know that you're going to be able to achieve these things, but I think if you don't have your big scary goals, you're not going to ever get out of your comfort zone. So I think goals are super important to keeping you honest. And then the grit piece, just I say be stubborn, like stubborn is consistent. Consistency is how I get to do what I do and how I successfully move through life, at least so far. But yeah, just be stubborn and just know that like all those three things kind of playing together and they're really important to kind of becoming who you want to be.
Yeah, I think it's a really neat framework to think about that, right? You need all three to really accomplish what you've been able to accomplish. And I'd like to sort of also explore how you balance work life and these incredible goals that you're achieving. Um, how do you find the time, Cassie, to make all this happen?
Yeah, really funny and good question. And I'm sure if anyone from my team is on, they're cackling.
Yeah,
Um,
Kara says, please
so
share.
yeah, I'm sure. So I can tell you this. First of all, there's no perfect balance at all. I never have the scale that's perfectly balanced. And yeah, there's just, it is a silly balance when you're an ultra runner. So I always like to start off with, a typical week, what a
Yeah.
typical week looks like on a busy work week. And like I said, travel is a big part of my job. I am sometimes in the middle of nowhere on the roadside of Alabama. I am sometimes in beautiful alpine locations. It varies so much that I don't know sometimes when like what I'm going to be able to do as far as training goes. So I always prioritize my training, especially if I have something big on the calendar. So I try to always call what I have 50K fitness. You can make fun of this, but I like to at least run enough to where at any given day I can go run a
Right. So
50K.
you're off the couch as a 50K and that you want to
And
maintain that fitness, right? So that's, yeah.
yes, if I am not at least 50K fit, something is going very wrong in my life.
Okay.
But through that, kind of like how I achieve it. So my job, I'll just say this. I have incredible and supportive leaders. I have an amazing team. They, I feel like, are very understanding, but I know I've said this in the past, but like we all have an 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever it looks like. The hours sometimes vary, obviously, when I'm traveling, but when I do have, say, I have a lot of people, I'm sure, have calls and projects and things like that during the day. And sometimes it's solid. Like when I say on my computer on camera at 9 o'clock and I am not done until 5, sometimes after 5. On those days, I always try to kind of take it in strides, give myself the ability to either run before or after work. And then you can't see what I'm standing on right now, but this is actually a treadmill desk that
Okay. So
I've
you take it when you
had
can.
created for yeah. So I do have ways. I try to get super creative. This particular treadmill goes up to like a 40% grade, so you won't see it very often, but sometimes I'm just drenched in sweat hiking while I'm trying to write emails. So sorry if you've been the recipient of one of those emails. But all that to say, I really do try to take it seriously. So even on those days that I am in Alabama, roadside, no sidewalks, I'm either going to a hotel gym, I'm doing laps in the parking lot. I'm not a fair weather runner, even though I hate the cold. I really don't like the cold. I try to get after it as much as I possibly can. And the beauty of that is I love it. I love the getting after it. I love training. I almost love training more than racing, actually.
Mhm.
So it's very long-winded, but
No,
hopefully
I
that
think
answers.
it's fascinating. I mean, that it's really kind of gets down to your three Gs of just you got your goals, and one of your goals, for instance, is to be 50K fit all the time. But then you're going to need to ramp that up as you prepare for a race, right? And that means getting up early. That's the grit part, right? Or staying up late and or maybe running circles around a hotel, literally. And that really kind of I love it, right? You're able to find that work balance. It also seems really great to be able to work at a place like HOKA that gives you some leniency around that when as you need it, right? And sort of doesn't demand that you be clocked in 9 to 5 every single day. That sounds like an awesome sort of ability to work-life balance and achieve what you're achieving here. It's very motivating and very inspiring, right? It makes me want to just yeah. Sometimes in the evening I'm like nah, right? But I got to set some more goals, and you're motivating me to do that. This is awesome. Um, and
Appreciate that.
let's take a look a little bit more, kind of getting into some of like how you accomplish this, right? And I think as I can pretty safely say most people tune in on this call are gear nerds. We like to scour the gear, see what's out there. I just will begin by saying that, and we say this all the time on the network. What works for me may not work for you, right? Whether it's the fit of a shoe or the way my gait is isn't right for a particular piece, right? So we'll just say that at the onset, right? These aren't recommendations for everybody, but these are even your personal sort of what hacks and tricks and what you found has worked. But I would love to kind of talk a little bit about some of the gear that you really rely on to achieve what you're achieving. Um,
Yeah. I'm a
and
gear junkie, and you know that. So I always like to start off with my safety blanket, which
yeah,
is what I lovingly refer to my pack as. Um, some ultra runners don't need them. I use mine, and again, it's my safety blanket, even for if I'm doing like a medium to long training run, even if it's not that long mileage, I wear my pack. The how I kind of chose and came to the pack that I have, I say it's years of testing, like test, sometimes fail, but basically testing, giving different gear a shot. And it's been an evolution because the pack game has gotten better and better over time. But I still to this day, I tinker, I try new packs, I try new flasks, you name it. But the pack typically, what I consider and how I kind of choose my pack, first and foremost, fit. So the fit of my pack, just having the right tightness around my rib cage. You can't see it because my camera doesn't show it, but I am short and stout, like a little teapot. And my torso is very short. So I have to get a pack that hits my rib cage in the right spot, but doesn't go lower than my belly button, which doesn't sound difficult, but let me tell you, it takes a lot of testing. So I basically found a pack that hits my rib cage well, and then it's incredibly adjustable all the way around. I can adjust the tightness here if I drink my water and my flasks are kind of less full. I can basically tighten it. I can tighten the bottom. I can tighten the top. So I think fit is very important to me. And then I think second is storage, and then where the storage is. I have packs for everything now.
sure.
I would say I'm a heavy pack. I prefer a heavy pack. I like to carry things I don't even need. I love having like all the food, even if I don't even eat it.
Yeah.
I love having just a ton of stuff on me at all times, including backup water, because you don't want to run out of water.
Hmm.
But because of that, I have my water in my front, and I usually have a heavy pack full of like food and other gear in the back. But storage is important because if as I do different races, some races I only need my flasks, some races I need literally an entire gear list. So it just depends. But I have packs now for everything. So fit and storage are my two biggest. And then an item in my pack, I don't like to talk specifics a ton, but I will say I brought some props for
Please,
this.
I love it. Props are great.
So only because this has saved my life. This is a seam sealed waterproof jacket. And yes, it does happen to be Gore-Tex. I will say I've had some high alpine races that had beautiful weather in the valleys. And a seam sealed rain jacket has absolutely saved my life. I would have had hypothermia at the top of the Wildstrubel hut in Switzerland had I not had that jacket.
Mhm.
So I'm forever grateful for certain gear items like that. But I would say having a really great fitting pack, and then of course a really, really solid jacket.
Yeah, having
Um,
that and Gore-Tex is making these lighter and lighter textiles, but having I'll here put my Gore-Tex hat on, right? The core benefits of waterproof, windproof, and breathable means that you can have the jacket. Means it's quite versatile, actually, right? It's not just in rain; it can be in wind, or even as a light insulation layer as need be. It gives you a lot of versatility in having that, right? Versus just bringing like a wind shell that would work great in the wind, but if it's truly raining or snowing or sleeting or whatever it might be, and you're not able to keep your heart rate up for whatever reason, it's nice to have that. Not only nice, like you said, can literally save your life. So it's heartening to hear that you are using a Gore-Tex garment, and that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of I've always been a gear junkie, but when things like that, like the Gore-Tex jacket and there's some Gore-Tex mittens that go over gloves. Like stuff like that is you kind of discover it along the way when you run ultras, like what you need and what you don't need. And just, yeah, you have to kind of figure out what gear is going to save your life at the top of an alpine race. But yeah, I would love if you'll let me to talk about my shoes because
Please, I think that's one of the
you
reasons we're
know,
here.
shoe
So,
gear.
yeah, let's talk shoes, and really let's kind of yeah. Anyway, let's talk shoes. So, where do you want to start? Let's start with race day shoes, the shoes that you're really out there on the ultras, and then let's kind of wind back to how the shoes are on your feet majority of your life for other days.
Yeah, so for the race day shoes, okay, this is kind of a loaded question because depending on what race I'm
Yeah,
doing,
right. It's not gonna be this. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I'm like,
if it's
there's a
a
lot to
flat loop
unpack,
race, might be quite different than a 30,000 vert
right?
race, right?
Yeah, fair. So, okay, so let me level set and say how I choose shoes, and how I test shoes, how I find
Yep.
my shoes. I have kind of a process, but I have a kind of a golden rule that I like to give myself at least 20 miles in the shoe. So, no, I know what you're all thinking. I go out and just run 20 miles every time I get a new pair. No. Um, Over the course of 20 miles, whether it's 2 runs, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is,
Right,
I
but
like
reserve
to.
judgment until you've put in 20 miles into the shoe.
Yes. And that's for a lot of reasons, fit, function, materials, foaming. I mean, we can get as techy as you want, but for me, I feel like that's kind of my sweet spot is when I can find like, oh, okay, this one will be good for this, or
Mm,
oh, this one will be good for this mileage, but I wouldn't wear it in 100 or whatever it is.
right.
So I kind of like to have that rule. And then I always like to tinker and play with my footwear. So try different things on different trails. And then for trails specifically, it all comes down to comfort and lugs, depending on what terrain I'm going to be on and what their race is going to look like.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I'll get into that a little bit more. I will start with road, and I'm actually not going to start with my race day road because I don't do a lot of
Okay,
road races.
yeah,
Um,
but you train on a lot
road,
of road, right? So,
road. If you're a roadie out there, listen to me. I appreciate you, and I bow down. I think roads 5Ks are harder than hundreds to me, to be honest with you. I really do. I think that, and road running in general is scary to me still. Tracks and all of that, keep it. But because you just heard me say I got to get it in when I can, I definitely wear road shoes and I do a ton of road. So I brought, and I apologize, she is so dirty, so just ignore all of the dirt. Um, I've been wearing the Skyward X mainly on the road. Reason being, not only is the shoe just like incredibly cushioned and protective, it's super fun. It's like a little trampoline.
hmm,
It's basically two foams sandwiched in between. It has a plate in it, and they sandwich that plate. And it's just super fun. It's not fast to me. I know. I think Raj somebody just he just set a record in it. I'm not setting records in this shoe, but she is my favorite daily driver. So all different distances, doesn't matter. I even wear her on crushed gravel. It's a great shoe. And then for the trail side, which is my bread and butter. I don't have it in front of me, which is funny, but I've been actually really loving the Challenger 7,
hmm.
which if you've known me, I was not a fan of the Challenger. The Challenger like 2 to 5, not my shoe. For someone, not for me. So the Challenger 7, it was a big update for us, and yeah, like the lugs updated, the cushion updated. The fit's really roomy. It also comes in a wide, it comes in a Gore-Tex. Like it was the shoe that I needed. And it definitely has answered the call. I've worn it in a couple different hundreds, and I've been wearing it almost exclusively now training, which is wild because historically I've been a speed goat girl. So Speed Goat is one of our other shoes. It's a little bit more aggressive. It's a little bit more nimble fitting because it fits closer to the foot. And another prop I brought, of course, I had to show everybody this. So this is a Speed Goat 2. This was actually the first ever 100-mile shoe that I
Aw.
wore.
Sits by
Yeah,
your bedside at night.
yeah, she's basically at my bedside. She's on my nightstand. I look at her every night. Yeah, so the Speed Goat 2, and honestly, the Speed Goat franchise through Speed Goat 2 and 3 were like my babies. They were like all my big races originally were in that shoe.
Mhm.
The 4 Speedgoat 4 and 5 were okay, and the Speedgoat 6 is just not, it's not for me,
Right.
which
It
is
evolved,
scary.
right? And yeah,
Yeah, it evolved. So if you have a shoe, make sure you try new shoes. And even if you don't trust a shoe, like say you've not tried the Speedgoat, try it. Just like I tried the Challenger. I trusted a new shoe, and it delivered. So yeah, so that is, yeah, that's like my race day shoes. It's really it's Challenger 7, and then honorable mention Tectonics 2, not
right.
3, 2.
You like the two. Okay.
That's all
For
I'll say
you,
about
right?
that.
And again, this is for you. It fit your foot well. It worked with your gait, your stride, right? And that's what's really important. But I love that you
Yes.
called out the Challenger. I mean, it truly is, that's a versatile shoe, right? It's designed to be
Mhm,
your sort of road to trail shoe. And then
mhm,
the additional versatility is you can have Gore-Tex Invisible Fit when you
mhm.
need the protection, and then you can not have it when you want to not have Gore-Tex in the shoe, and then also in those wide options. And we've even kind of talked a little bit about a little bit of strategy with leaving shoes on the trails about how your feet change. Can you review that with us? That was a really fascinating story. Uh,
Yeah.
it can you review a little bit how the Challenger has how you use the Challenger over the course of a race if you're going to use that shoe? You've talked about having it at different drops and different widths around along the way. I think that's an interesting story.
Yeah, so it depends. I'm not a big like I don't change shoes very often in races. Between like I mean, just depends if it's a dry race, especially like say it's dry gravel and then some technical terrain. I don't typically change out of a shoe, but what I have been doing is I actually
Mhm.
got Challenger in a wide width. So even though I don't measure a wide proper on both feet, I got the wide width for the later miles, and it's just like kind of a luxury item to change into. I've also been changing like my shirt when I change my shoes.
Okay.
It's the little things like
Sure.
having a fresh shirt
Yeah.
and fresh shoes, you feel like a new person.
Yeah, you're starting
Um,
over a little bit, right? Give
yeah,
a boost of
it's
energy.
wonderful.
Maybe
Yeah,
maybe with a gummy or a Sour Patch Kid. I don't know.
yeah. Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of candy. So all candy, especially Sour Patch Kids. But yeah, with shoes, I don't like I'm usually pretty low maintenance with my like race day shoes, but
Yeah.
the things I try to prevent are if I typically have a shoe in races if it's like 100 miler, I try to have or 100K. I try to have a pair at mile 40 and again at mile 80. My mile 40 pair is for if it's like, oh no, like things are getting off the rails.
Yeah.
And then I can change early.
Yeah.
But
That
then my
is.
mile 80 pair is that like luxury, like treat yourself. So yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that's a neat strategy and something actually interesting that you do have this sort of like backup pair about a third of the way into the race. I think that's really kind of interesting, and then kind of expecting that your feet will swell and moving into another pair towards the end of the race. I think it's a cool strategy and um, to consider. So I appreciate that sharing of that. I want to just touch on the food you eat. I know nutrition is extremely personal, right? But I am interested in how you plan for yourself over the course of a day. Just in your, and this was a question we had from Natasha. How do you fuel throughout your run? What's your approach to fueling?
Yeah, that is another thing we could unpack for hours.
Sure.
I'll
Yeah.
start off, I'll preface it with nutrition in general for ultra runners is a very personal journey
Yeah.
and it evolves over time. You really figure out what works best for you over time. And what works best for me is real food and then candy, a lot of candy. So everyone always thinks I'm super healthy. I am not. I am basically a raccoon. Typically in races, I eat everything from chips, a lot of Coca-Cola, applesauce, the little kids ones from the grocery store, applesauce pouches, peanut butter and jelly. I mean, it really depends on the day. You name it.
Hmm.
I do have a preferred electrolyte brand, which I will share, not plugging them, but Element is spot on with what I need. The only thing I'll say is it doesn't have calories,
Hmm.
which works well because I eat a lot of calories when I run. But having an electrolyte and then being able to kind of consume food as I need it is really like kind of my vibe when I run.
Yeah.
But real food and a lot early and often, regardless of the distance, you're gonna catch me just slamming again, like that raccoon mentality. Catch me at that aid station looking just like a raccoon. So yeah.
And are you counting calories? Are you considering that? Or are you just kind of eating when you're hungry, refueling? How are you sort of approaching that to not run out of energy?
Yeah, because sometimes I do. I try to range from like anywhere from like 100 to 300, 350 calories per hour. Sounds like a lot, but depending on your exertion, like for a mountain race for me, I'm like 250 to 350 like
Mhm.
easily just
Yeah.
because you're exerting so much effort. So yeah, so depending on if you're like climbing, but later in a race, if I'm just walking, I'm still trying to like take in calories, but maybe not as many. But I don't honestly, I don't really count.
Okay.
I'm not a professional athlete,
No,
so no.
and I think you've done this enough too that you have a vibe for how many Sour Patch Kids you need in an hour, right? Or whatever it is
Yeah,
to kind of keep you running, right? And if you get less than that, you know you won't feel great. And if you get more than that, it doesn't, you can't handle it, right? So you kind of understand that
yeah,
balance. Um,
yeah.
the first time I was I've never done an ultra, but doing some of her longer distance outings, I have a friend, she's a nutritionist, and her main thing was like, you need hydration. So you need some kind
Mhm.
of salt in your water. And then you need to eat every hour, even if you're not hungry. Like you have to get
Oh
food
yeah,
into you every hour. Don't skip it. Even that first hour, you might be tempted to. Don't skip it. Just keep little bits in all the time. Uh,
yeah, yeah. I think I told you this, Marshall. I have safety foods that
uh-huh.
I rely on, and one of my safety foods is goo chews and Sour Patch Kids. So
Okay.
not in that order. It's usually Sour Patch Kids win out. But I always try to
It's
keep
better.
them in my pack because no matter how nauseous I am
Yeah.
or how just like not hungry, like I'm just usually not feeling well, especially like later in a race, I know that I can just handful and just palm it and
Right. No matter what.
just go hard on some Sour Patch Kids. Yeah.
Right? They're gonna taste good. So if the aid station doesn't have
Yep.
what you want, you're gonna have those on hand. Yeah, and I
Yep.
think it's really important to pull out those secret foods. For me, it's the sesame snacks from Trader Joe's, these little like
Ooh,
sesame wheat snacks, and
fancy.
they're yeah, always have them, no matter what, no matter how long I'm going out. There's just a small bag of them just in case, right? And
I
that's
love it.
it's
Love
whatever
that.
works for you the best. What's a kind of fun thing in your pack that we wouldn't expect to be in there that you just kind of need to have with you?
Um,
Whether it be like
well,
a good luck charm or whether it be a piece of gear that we're just like, huh?
I have a weird piece of gear, and again, if anyone is on my team, they're gonna just absolutely cackle. I always carry knives. Like
Okay.
even even when I'm running somewhere where it makes no sense or like in a race, I always like to it's like anything else. It's a safety blanket. So I always have a knife, and then if you ever see me in a race, some people identify me, they don't even know my name, but I wear prayer flags on the back of all of my packs.
Hmm.
So every race, every training run. So I've been called flags a couple times. So yeah,
Okay.
flags and a knife.
Flags and a knife. That's sounds like a good
Yeah,
country western
strange.
song. Um, well, Cassie, I mean, it's been fun to explore some of these components here. We talked a little bit about like ultra running and what it is in general, and I think I helped to get a better understanding of the different components of ultra running, how you got into it, and then that sort of motivation that kind of keeps you rolling throughout the trail with your three Gs, the grit, gratitude, and I think really goal setting. That's one of the things I see strongly in you is that your ability to set goals and achieve them as best you can, but also not give yourself too hard of a time if they pass by. Um,
Mhm.
but that really is an interesting thing. And then we got into sort of your work life balance, and it's just really motivating for me to see how you're able to take all that and make it work. And I just love it, that you have carved out this life with a company that lets you do it, with an activity that you love, with your partner who supports you in it. Right? It's very very cool to see how you pull it all together. And then I appreciate the kind of exploration through the pack. So, and then just the silliest question, I got to ask it because somebody asked it at the onset of this call. How many bananas do you eat?
I can't see any of you or the chat, but I think I know where this question is coming from. Um, I I was asked in a 50 miler how many bananas could I eat.
Yeah.
Um, so I tested that theory and I ate 50 bananas in a
No.
50. It's a lot of don't do that ever. A lot of bananas. I fueled exclusively on bananas for a 50.
I love that you do enough of this that you're like, for this race, I'm just doing bananas. The rest of us, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I have to have everything dialed in perfect. I'm going to have these 7 different things. And you're like, I'm doing this one on bananas. So that is a testament, Cassie, to how amazing you are, how lighthearted you are, how you stay motivated, how you do what you do, and and really it seems like you just have fun the entire time, and it shows, and it's been shown on when we work on calls together, whether we're technically training on footwear or today just learning about some of these products. This is awesome. So thank you, Cassie, for exploring this with us today. And
Thanks, everybody.
thanks to the community for your great chats. A lot of activity in the chat, Cassie. You're going to want to go through and read it. A lot of folks are giving you kudos, and it's fun to see that out there. And hopefully, we can have you back. What's your? I'll start with here. What was the most recent race you did, and what's your next race?
Oh, well, I was super spoiled because I got to go do, this is another full circle moment. I got to go do Tarawera in New Zealand.
Mhm.
It means a lot because HOKA, as you know, our name is Hoka One One. It's Maori, the indigenous language of New Zealand. So full circle moment, I got to go do the race that I heard the founders talking about all those years ago. I did the 100K in New Zealand, and it was just, yeah, it was awesome to see the Maori culture, to see the whole country is beautiful. Highly recommend
Yeah,
going. But yeah, so that is what I just did in February. And then I have two kind of big races coming up.
yeah,
I have 100 in my home state of Wisconsin in June. And then I'm finally running a UTMB race. I'm running CCC this year in August. So
that's congratulations. That's exciting. Wow. So
I'm
you
so
do have
excited.
a you do have when you do have a lot coming up, and hopefully you've been able to
Always.
train and stay healthy. So
Yeah, yeah. Thoughts and good vibes, please, for all of my health and training. But yeah, always have things on the calendar.
all right,
Gotta
well,
see
we'll
my
send you good vibes, and we'll check in on the Experience More tour, see how these races are going. It'd be fun to update us after you're done. Um,
awesome.
well, Cassie,
Thank you.
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and again, thanks to everybody for tuning in today and being part of this conversation. It's been really fun.